everybody. Welcome to BIO100. I hope you enjoyed seeing that little montage of me and my family. My name is Christine Stevenson, and I am your instructor for this semester. And the purpose of this video is to get you comfortable and familiar with how the class is going. So I am going to be running through a highlight reel of some of the important class policies and the different types of assignments that I'll be asking you to take on this semester. But before I do that, right off the bat, I wanted to bring your attention to a few important pieces of information, one of which is how to get in touch with me if you have questions. My email is christine.stevenson1@centralaz.edu. So if you have questions about anything you hear in this video, you can send me an email, or you can also reach out to me through Blackboard messages. And you can also reach me through an app called Remind that sends messages between our phones, and I'll explain how that option works as well later in the video. The other piece of information I want you to know about is when my office hours are. So if this is your first semester at college and you haven't heard of office hours before, what office hours are is an opportunity when you can meet with me, either in person in the office on campus or virtually using Blackboard Collaborate, which is a two-way video conferencing platform that's built into Blackboard. And these are opportunities for you to ask extra questions, get any extra help that you need. I'll be holding office hours physically in my office, which is located in room S115 on the Signal Peak campus on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., as well as 10:15 to 10:45. And then on Mondays, I am not on campus, so I've set time aside on that day for virtual office hours, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. by appointment. And there are links on Blackboard where you can see the slots that are available, and you can make those virtual appointments with me. I'm also available at other windows throughout the week, but it changes weekly, so if you need to meet with me at a time other than these regularly scheduled hours, just reach out to me and let me know. Okay, so now that you know how to reach me, what is BIO100? So BIO100 is a lab science elective designed for students who are pursuing degrees in areas other than biology. Coming into this class, you are not expected to have any background in biology. This class is designed for beginners, and it's intended for students who aren't going to be majoring in biology or related science. If you are watching this video and you are intending to major in biology or related science like chemistry, for example, send me a message because you are not in the right class for you. You should be in a different class called BIO181. But BIO100, this class, is an elective for non-biology majors. The official description of this course, which you'll find in our syllabus and comes from the college catalog, is, quote, basic principles and concepts of biology, exploration of methods of scientific inquiry and behavior of matter and energy in biological systems. Students should expect to dedicate at least 12 hours per week to this course at home studying, completing assignments, and preparing for tests. I'm going to elaborate on what to expect for that time commitment aspect in a minute, but to simplify that description of the class, my version of what I like to tell people BIO100 is all about is this. If this is the only biology class you ever take in your life, here's what you need to know. When I was first hired by CAC, I was assigned the task of basically designing this BIO100 class from scratch, and that has been my approach and my philosophy for what is included in our curriculum. If this is the only academic encounter you have with the subject of biology, here's what you need to know. And this is something I'm very passionate about because out of all of the sciences, biology is a subject where you really do need to know certain things because so much of biology applies to our everyday lives. So here are those need to knows that we're going to be covering. Over the course of the semester, we're going to be learning how does science operate, what is a living organism, why is water essential for living things, what are living things made of on a chemical level, how does that chemical composition contribute to our nutrition, what are cells and how do they function, how do cells reproduce, what is cancer and how does it arise, how are sperm and egg cells made, How does fertilization and conception occur? How are traits passed down from parents to offspring? How do our genes translate into traits? What causes inherited genetic diseases? And there's still more. What is evolution and how does it work? What are bacteria? How are bacterial infections treated? What are fungi? What are protists? What are viruses? How does your immune system work to fight off diseases? What are vaccines and how do they work? What are the different types of plants and their characteristics? What are GMOs and what are their pros and cons? What are the different types of animals and their characteristics? How do ecologists study interactions between organisms and the environment? And what is biodiversity and why is it important? Now, I know that's a long list, but we have 16 weeks to cover all of this. And if by the end of the class you look back and you think, well, that was interesting, but I really wish we had learned about this thing, this other thing, please let me know, because I am always looking to make this class better and figure out how it can serve you best. My ultimate goal is for you to walk away from this class having learned some useful stuff that helps your life. So if you're left with questions or you feel like you're missing information on a topic, please let me know so that I can build that into the class for future semesters of students. Okay, jumping back now to this course description. The last part of that description that you find in CAC's catalog has to do with the time commitment required for this class. Students should expect to dedicate at least 12 hours per week to this course at home studying, completing assignments, and preparing for tests. Now, if that sounds to you like a lot of hours, the reason is because this is an online class and we don't have any actual class time where we physically meet. So let me make a comparison between what the time commitment would look like if you were taking this class face-to-face on campus. Any lab science elective class, whether it's biology or chemistry or geology, they all have two components to them. There's a lecture component where you learn the fundamentals, and then there's also a lab component where you do hands-on activities. If you were taking this class face-to-face on campus, what would happen is you would come to campus twice each week for 2 hours and 30 minutes each time. So for example, your lecture might be scheduled on Monday from 9 a.m. to 11:30, and then your lab might be on Wednesday at that same time. So you'd spend a total of 5 hours on campus in the classroom each week for this class. In our situation, given that we are online, things will look different. For the lecture component, each week you'll be asked to watch a video recording of a lecture that I have prepared, and those are approximately 1 hour long. And you might say, wait, if I was taking this class face-to-face, wouldn't I be getting 2.5 hours of lecture time instead of just 1 hour? And yes, that's true. But I'm thinking that if you're pausing the lecture video to take notes and complete the assignments as you go, then it's going to take you longer than 1 hour to get through that lecture. Many students have told me that if they're really serious about taking notes, it can take them twice as long, so about 2 hours to get through the 1 hour lecture. So that's where that time comes from. And then each week you'll also have a home lab activity to complete. And these are designed to take no more than 2.5 hours total. So just like the face-to-face students, you'll be putting in about 5 hours per week on the content itself. And then the remaining time, the other 7 out of 12 hours, is meant to be dedicated to reviewing and studying the material. We do have exams in this class, and so carving out a significant amount of time each week to make sure you're prepared for those exams is important. And I'll tell you about those exams very shortly. But first, let's talk about the materials and tools you need for this class. You will need the laboratory kit, which must be ordered from the CAC bookstore. You cannot buy this from Amazon or another vendor because we make these kits in-house at CAC, so that's the only place you can get it. The lab kit contains most of the materials that you need to complete your hands-on activities at home. However, there are some items that we can't ship in your lab kits, and those will have to be provided by you. And you can find a complete list of those items in the syllabus, as well as in our first lab assignment that you'll be completing during the first week of class. For other materials, we also have a textbook called OpenStax Concepts of Biology. This textbook is actually completely free if you use it in its digital format. You can access the book through your web browser. There's a link that I've posted on Blackboard, or you can also download the book as a PDF file at the same link. So I always recommend that you try to get by with the free online version, especially because the book is going to be, for our purposes, more of a supplementary resource. The lecture videos are really the bread and butter of the class. They are the primary resource, and then if you feel like you need more information, the textbook is there to help you. But I do want to mention that there are physical copies of the book at the CAC bookstore. They're pretty cheap. I think they're under $40, which is pretty good for a textbook. So if you really feel like you need it, the hard copy is available, but most students choose to get by with just the digital version. And then, of course, given that this is an online class, the other tools that you need are Blackboard and your CAC student email. So make sure you're keeping a close eye on both of those platforms, because I will post announcements on Blackboard and use them to communicate with you. And then you optionally may need a webcam. This is optional. I'll explain why. This webcam can be built into your laptop, or it can be one of those external webcams. The reason why you would need a webcam is for taking proctored exams at home. However, if you don't want to take exams at home, you can also choose to take them at one of the on-campus CAC testing center locations. I just need a little advance notice if that is your plan so that I can file the paperwork. Now, if you don't have a laptop for taking this class, or if you have a laptop that doesn't have a webcam in it, you can actually check out a laptop from CAC. And the way that you do this is by contacting this email that you see on the screen, loaner.equipment@centralaz.edu, and tell them that you're requesting a laptop. These laptops are free, and they can be checked out for the duration of the semester and then returned to CAC when you're finished with the class. But they are available on a first-come, first-served basis, so if this applies to you, then I strongly recommend you send that email as soon as possible. So now let's talk about what the class is going to look like in terms of assignments. The total number of points in the class is 1,000, and that is spread across a few different types of assignments that you can see here. The first assignment that you'll complete should be the syllabus quiz. This is a 10-question quiz on Blackboard that asks you about the contents of our core syllabus. It is not proctored, there's no time limit, you can open and close the assignment as much as you need, and you can even use the syllabus as a resource to answer the questions while you're taking the quiz. So it's a very low stakes assignment. The purpose is really just so that I can make sure that you are familiar with some of the course policies that are really important for you to know. And then looking past the syllabus quiz, there are also important lab activities or experiments that you guys are going to do. Those are 20 points for a total of 280. And that roughly breaks down to one experiment per week, except for the week we take final exams. And then there's 1 week where there's a holiday where there's no lab assigned as well. And then there are also 15 study guides, roughly one per week again, except for the week we take finals. And these are worth 10 points each for a total of 150. And these study guides are designed to accompany the lectures. So as you're watching the lecture video, you fill out the study guide. The other thing that you'll be doing while you watch the lecture video is answering checkpoint questions, because embedded in each lecture video are 10 content-related questions that you'll answer as you're going along. And each checkpoint question is 1 point, and there's 10 per lecture. With 15 lectures, that's another 150 points. And then lastly, we have the exams. There will be 4 given throughout the semester. Each of those is worth 100 points, and that is a total of 400 points. So all of those different assignments add up to 1,000 total possible points. And at the end of the semester, the way that the assignment of final grades will work is on the following scale. So if you end up with an 89.5% or higher, meaning you earned at least 895 of the 1,000 total points, then your grade is an A. If you earn between 795 and 894, your final grade is a B, and so on. So as you move through the semester, you can use this to roughly gauge how many more points do you need in order to end up with the grade that you want to get in the class. Now, when is all of this stuff due? Items assigned during a given week can be completed any time during that week as long as they are submitted by 9 a.m. the following Monday. So one of the nice things about this class is you can work it around your schedule in your life. As long as you're getting stuff in by Monday at 9 a.m., then you're staying on track. And you can find the items that are assigned during a given week by keeping an eye on the schedule, which I've posted on Blackboard, and you can also see it at the end of our syllabus. Here is one little snippet of the schedule. So as you can see, there's a column that tells you which chapter our lecture is on, and then that will have an accompanying study guide and set of checkpoints. And then there is a list of anything else that's due that week. For the most part, this is usually just the lab activity for the week. So now I'm going to give you a little more information about each of the assignments we saw in the overview of the point structure, starting with the lectures and their accompanying checkpoints and study guides. So as I said, the lecture videos are the bread and butter of the class. This is where you get the information that you need for the study guides, for the checkpoints, for the exams, and for our weekly extra credit opportunity, which I'll talk about in just a moment. So there's one video per week. It's about an hour long. There are a few videos that go a bit over an hour, but I've tried hard to keep them at an hour or less. On Blackboard, the lecture videos will be presented as links, which will redirect you out to YouTube, which is where I have all the videos posted. And then every lecture video also has a study guide that comes with it. The study guides are very important because they show you what is fair game for being covered on the exams. So I don't like to trick you guys. There's no funny business. If it's not on the study guide, it's not going to be on the exam. And the study guides are also there just to help you structure your note-taking and your thinking about the lecture content. I strongly, strongly recommend that you complete these study guides while you are watching the lecture videos, because I've designed them to go hand in hand where the questions in the study guide follow the flow of the information in the lecture video. So that makes it pretty straightforward to fill out the information while you're watching the video. And then the study guides appear on Blackboard as these assignments that have an attached Word document. So you'll download the Word document, type in your answers, and then upload it back to that same assignment link to submit it. And one small note, it is helpful to me if you make your answers a different color font than the questions themselves, because it's easier for me to visually distinguish them when I'm grading. Because I will be grading these study guides, I read through every answer that you write, and I check it for accuracy, and I give you inline feedback, and then re-upload it for you to review. The reason I do that is because I want you to make sure that you have the right information when you're studying for the exam. You don't want to end up studying the wrong answer because the content of your study guide wasn't accurate. Another thing about the study guides is that you'll notice that certain questions in the study guide are colored blue. The reason why they're blue is because I'm telling you ahead of time that these will be the answers to checkpoint questions in future lectures. The chapters all build on each other. Things we learn in chapter 1 feed into chapter 2, and then chapter 3, etc. So sometimes a checkpoint question will ask you to think back to a previous chapter that we built upon. And to make it easy for you to find what you need, I've coded those questions in blue. And then lastly, let's talk about the file formats. If you have a MacBook or an Apple product, I cannot open Pages files, which Pages is Apple's word processing program. I can't open Pages files on my work PC. So if you have a Mac, please submit your study guides to me as a PDF. If you have a PC, you can submit them either as a Word document or a PDF. You're also welcome, in any case, to print the study guides, handwrite your answers, and then upload a scan if that's your preferred method for how you want to tackle these assignments. Okay, so that covers the study guides. But as I said, there's another assignment that goes with each lecture, and that is the checkpoints. Every lecture contains 10 checkpoint questions that are worth 1 point each. These checkpoints will be obvious and apparent to you because in the video, the top of the slide will say checkpoint 1 or checkpoint 2. So when you get to one of those checkpoints, I will read the question, and then you can pause the video, figure out the answer, and then continue onward. And whereas the study guides are mostly for gathering and assembling the essential information from the lecture, the checkpoints are more critical thinking and application type questions. So they're a really good way for you to figure out and self-assess whether you're understanding the material. And it's good for me to figure that out as well because I will grade these checkpoint questions and give you feedback on them just like the study guides. The checkpoint questions appear as an assignment on Blackboard as well, and I recommend that you keep that assignment open in a separate tab while you're watching the lecture so that you can answer the questions as you go. And here is a screenshot of what one of the checkpoint assignments looks like. As you can see, some of the questions are free response where you type your answer in, some of them are multiple choice. And then one last tip on the checkpoints. If you're going through the lecture video and you need to take a break and pick it up later, after you've answered a checkpoint is a really good place to pause and take a break. Just make sure that you jot down the timestamp of the point in the lecture that you want to return to when you take your break. And then the final assignment that comes with each lecture is actually optional because it's extra credit. Every week you will have the opportunity to participate in a discussion board reflecting on the week's content. These discussion boards give you the opportunity to get to know your classmates and also share your personal reflections on the topics that we're learning. And the prompt is the same every week. It's very open. These are the questions that you can choose from. These are your options to answer in the discussion board. Did you find any of the information interesting? Explain. Did you find it surprising? Explain. Did you find anything useful? Explain. Did you find anything personally meaningful? Explain. Are you left with any questions or any topics you'd like to learn more about? So as you can see, it's very open-ended. I'm really just looking for you to reflect on and process what you saw in the lecture. And each of these discussion boards will be worth up to 5 extra credit points, 3 for the initial post, and then 1 point each for 2 replies to your classmates. There's 1 discussion board per week, except for final exams week. So that means 15 discussion boards times 5 points each. There's 75 total extra credit points on the table. And that is a lot in the grand scheme of this class. That amount is equal to almost a full exam. An exam is 100 points, or a full letter grade, which is also 100 points. So I do encourage you to take part in these and not leave those points on the table, especially if exams aren't your forte. You can pretty much negate almost an entire exam if you take part in all those discussions. The main post for each discussion will be due Monday at 9 a.m., just like everything else, and then you will have 2 additional days to post replies to your classmates, so I'll check back in the discussion for those replies, and it will ultimately close on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Before we move on to talking about the next assignment, I do want to briefly cover some discussion board etiquette that I'm going to expect everyone to uphold this semester. All of the interactions you have in the discussion boards need to be polite, respectful, and mutually supportive. It's okay for your opinions to differ, and it's okay for you to respectfully challenge each other's thinking, but any personal attacks or statements that are hateful, prejudiced, or demeaning will not be tolerated. Submissions with these qualities will not be eligible for credit. The good rule of thumb is that if you wouldn't say it face to face, it's probably a sign that you shouldn't post it because it's probably not acceptable. So be kind to each other, use common sense, and remember that it is a real person that you're communicating with on the other end of the computer. Next, let's talk about the labs. As I mentioned, for the lab component of the class, you'll be doing hands-on experiments using those home lab kits. There will be 14 of those lab activities that are each worth 20 points. This accounts for 280 of the 1,000 points in the class. And this breaks down to roughly 1 per week minus the holiday week. There is going to be a week toward the end of the semester where things get a little weird and you have 2 labs one week and 2 lectures a different week. And then we had to stack it that way because of where the Thanksgiving holiday happens in our schedule this year. But in general, it'll be 1 lab per week. The lab kits that you'll purchase from the bookstore will contain most of what you need to do these activities, but some materials you will need to provide yourself, and usually these are things that you have at home already. So if we look at this screenshot of one of the instruction protocols for the lab photosynthesis, there's going to be two sections at the beginning of each lab in gray boxes. The gray box on the left indicates which items you need to pull from your lab kit, and then the gray box on the right shows you which items you need to supply yourself. And as you can see in this case, a lot of this stuff you probably have at home. You need a lamp or a windowsill that has direct sunlight. You need a timer, but that can be on your cell phone. A camera, but that can be on your cell phone. Something you may not already have at home to complete this lab is a few spinach leaves. We can't ship those to you. And so we want to make sure that we check the lab instructions at the beginning of the week, because you want to look at the materials list and see if there's anything on that list that you need to supply that you don't already have at home, so you can form a plan to get that thing. You don't want to get to the end of the week, it's Sunday night, the lab's due Monday morning, and you realize you need spinach leaves, and you can't go get them, and you're stuck, and you can't do the lab. So look at these instructions early in the week. Even if you're not going to do the lab early in the week, even if you have to wait until the weekend to do your experiment, look at the instructions to see if there's materials that you need to get. And then one other thing you'll want to do before completing the labs, watch the lecture. Most of the time, you need to watch the lecture first in order to understand the lab. And if you try to dig into the lab without having that foundational content from the lecture first, it's going to be difficult, if not impossible, to understand what's going on in the lab. The last type of assignment we need to talk about is exams. There's 4 exams spaced evenly throughout the semester, and these are true exams, meaning that they're closed note and closed book, which means you do have to study for them. We will take the exams on Blackboard, and your first option for taking them is using a software called ProctorU. If you've taken any math classes at CAC prior to this, then you're probably familiar with ProctorU because the math department uses it for their exams. And what ProctorU does is it matches you with a live proctor who will use your webcam and microphone to proctor the exam while you take it from the comfort of your home. It does require you to create an account with ProctorU and install a piece of software called the Guardian browser on your computer. And I have instructions for doing all of that in the links that I've provided on Blackboard. There is a fee that they charge on a per exam basis. It's $6 per exam. So since we have 4 exams across the semester, it comes out to $24 for the semester total. You also need to schedule your exams in advance with ProctorU. They have appointments available 24 hours a day, but they charge you extra if you don't schedule in advance. So to avoid their additional fees, you need to set up your exam at least 72 hours in advance. The other option, if you don't want to use ProctorU, or if it's just not feasible for you, or if you don't want to pay the fee, you can physically go to one of the CAC testing centers on campus to take your exams. But if you choose this option, please let me know a few weeks in advance, because I need to give the testing center notice and file the proper paperwork so that they can administer the exam. So that covers ProctorU. Now let's talk about the availability and format of the exams. You'll have a 1-week-long window to complete each exam. The final exam will be an exception. For the first 3 exams, you have a window that runs from 9 a.m. Monday of one week until 9 a.m. Monday the following week. The final exam, instead of having a full week window, you'll have a window that runs from Monday until Thursday at midnight. But with each of the other exams, you have a full week when you can take the exam. It's open. You can take it any time of the day or night during that week. You'll have 1 hour and 15 minutes available to you to complete each exam in a single sitting. So what that means is that when you sit down and start the exam, you open it up and then you have to finish it. You can't close out of it and come back to it. Other types of assignments you can exit out and come back in without submitting it, like the labs, study guides. You can exit out of those, but with the exams, you have to finish it once you've started it within 1 hour and 15 minutes. The first 3 tests only cover what we've learned in the previous unit. So in other words, in the past few weeks, and they will take place the week after we close out the last chapter of a unit. So for example, here is a snippet of our course schedule, and you can see that our first exam will take place during week 6, and it will cover chapters 1 through 5. And we will have finished chapters 4 and 5 that previous week. The final exam, on the other hand, is going to be comprehensive. And what that means is that it will take a little bit of everything that we've learned throughout the semester and test you on it. But when we get to that point, there will be a study guide that tells you what to focus on so that you can narrow down your studying and not be overwhelmed with all of the information from the entire semester. And for every exam, regardless of whether it's a regular unit exam or the final, it will have the exact same format. Every exam is worth 100 points. 60 out of those 100 points will come from multiple choice questions, which amounts to 30 multiple choice questions worth 2 points each. And then the remaining 40 points will come from free response questions where you type in your answer. Usually the answer is just a couple sentences, and most of these free response questions are taken directly from the study guides. Not all of them, but most of them. For these ones, the number and point value will vary a little bit, but it's usually about 10 free response questions that are worth 4 points for each exam. Okay, so that covers the different assignments. There are just a few other policies I want you to be aware of. One of them is our attendance policy. Since this is an online class, attendance works a little bit differently than a face-to-face class. Attendance is based on participation. So if you submit assignments, any assignments, it doesn't have to be all of them, but if you submit anything during a given week, you'll be marked as present. If you do not, you'll be marked as absent. Any student who doesn't participate at all for 2 consecutive weeks without notifying me will be withdrawn from the course for excessive absences. Now, if something comes up, like you have a family emergency and you know you're going to be missing for a couple of weeks, please let me know, because then I won't withdraw you. If you don't communicate that to me, though, I won't know what's going on, and then you could risk getting dropped. So just keep that open line of communication with me and you'll be okay. And then late assignments will receive a 10% deduction for every day that they are late. So if you turn in a lab 1 day late, labs are worth 20 points. 10% of that is 2 points. So in other words, you'd have 2 points deducted off the top of the score of your lab. But otherwise, I'll grade it like normal. So keep that in mind, because if you get to Sunday night and you realize that you forgot to do something, it most often doesn't benefit you to rush through it and get a really bad score. If you end up doing poor work on a lab and you get 10 out of 20 because you rushed it, that's actually worse than if you took the extra day to do the work really thoroughly and then turned it in and took the minimal late penalty. So just keep that in mind. And then academic integrity. This is one of my least favorite topics to talk about and to address, but it's important because I take it very seriously. All of the work that you do in this class needs to be original. And the reason why is because our most important goal in this class is to learn something about biology. And ultimately, if it doesn't come from your brain, then it means that you're not the one who's learning the material. So don't copy from other students. Don't copy from internet sources. Don't copy from AI search engines. And one thing that I really want to emphasize is that I am not looking for perfect work. I am looking for your work. I'm going to say that again because it's really important. I'm not looking for perfect work. I'm looking for your work. Maybe by using these academic integrity violations, you could make your work more perfect. But that's not what I want. And it also doesn't benefit you to do so. I'm going to show you why. So in this example question, the question is, what role do lipids, in other words, fats, play in living organisms? This is something that we are going to learn this semester. Here are 2 possible answers to the same question. The one on the left is what I get when I enter this question into ChatGPT. It says, lipids play crucial roles in living organisms, contributing to various physiological functions. Here are some of the key lipids: energy storage, blah, 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 blah. It goes on and on and on. It talks about triglycerides, adipose tissue, It talks about phospholipids, cholesterol, etc., etc. It's a very thorough answer. But actually, it's too thorough because we don't learn about adipose tissue in this class, so it goes beyond the scope of the material. But now let's look at the answer on the right. Lipids store energy for long-term use. Storing lipids can also help animals survive in the cold because their fat insulates them. There is also a special type of lipid that is used to build cell membranes called a phospholipid. Is the second answer as elaborate as the first answer? No. Is it as perhaps well written from like a language arts perspective? No. But do I care? Absolutely not. This answer on the right has everything you need to know. It has just the right amount of information. It has everything you need to know about the topic and nothing that even to a certain extent, you can spell words wrong in this class, and as long as I understand what you're saying, then I'm happy. So keep that in mind. I'm not looking for the fancy, sophisticated stuff. I'm looking for your work. I'm looking for what your brain can give me. And is it correct? That's what matters. I hope I've made a good case for the importance of academic integrity, but if there are academic integrity violations that come up, the consequences are these. A first infraction results in a score of 0 on the assignment and a warning where I reach out to you to speak to you about it and make sure you understand. And it's important that you understand because the consequences for a second infraction is a grade of F in the class, not just the assignment, but the overall course. So this is very rare, but it has happened. Please don't get into this territory. Be proactive about avoiding it. If you are struggling with what we're learning and you find yourself gravitating towards questionable territory, before you do that, reach out to me and ask me for help, ask me for tutoring. I am on your team and I really want you to succeed. If what you need is one-on-one help, I'm there. If English isn't your first language and you need help understanding material, I am there. Just ask for help. On that note, I want to close out by offering you some tips for being successful in this class. First, try not to fall behind. Stay on top of your weekly rotation of assignments, which is the study guides, checkpoints, labs. We have a pretty predictable rotation of material every week, but it does pile up quickly if you miss things, so stay on top of it. Also, be sure to check Blackboard and your CAC email regularly. If you don't already check those things regularly, you could end up missing important information that I'm trying to communicate to you guys. If you have a different personal email that you use more often than your CAC student email, and you would be better off having messages forwarded to your personal email, let me know and I can help you set things up so that your Blackboard messages and CAC student emails get forwarded to your personal email. Next, communicate with me in whatever way is most comfortable for you. Blackboard messages, email, or many students prefer to use Remind. This is optional. If you've never used Remind before, it's an app that I have on my phone that allows me to communicate with you guys via text message. You do not have to download the app, and you don't have to give me your phone number. All you have to do is text at CAC BIO100 to the number 81010, and it will automatically enroll you in the class that I've set up through my app. If you do this, then you will get text message reminders about the assignments that are due the day before they're due each week. And you can also reply to those messages, and it will send those messages to the app on my phone. And those are private communications between you and me. They're not going out to the whole class, so you can ask questions about the content or whatever else you need. And then finally, please know that I want you guys to meet your goals in this class and for your education in general. My door is always open. I don't bite. And I love talking with you guys and interacting with you guys and helping out in whatever way I can. So please reach out if you need anything. Okay, so now we just have a few final things in this video. I'm going to give you a little run through of a to-do list for our first week, because the first week has a number of miscellaneous tasks that are going to set you up for the rest of the semester. First, you want to check out our syllabus and complete the syllabus quiz. As I said, the quiz is not timed, it's not proctored. It's just my way of making sure that you know certain things about the way the class works. You'll also want to complete Lab 1, Introduction to the Laboratory. This is a very short assignment that will just get you familiar with some of the safety considerations related to materials in your lab kit. And you'll want to make sure you have your lab kit in hand before doing this, because part of the assignment is going to ask you whether there's anything missing from your kit. So you'll have to check the inventory, and for that, you need it in hand. I'm also asking you to sign up for a meet and greet session with me. This is going to be a short 15-minute meeting that takes place on Blackboard Collaborate sometime during the first week, and this is worth 10 points. I like to meet all of my online students one-on-one to make sure you're settling in. So please choose a meeting time with me using the link that I've supplied on Blackboard, which I'll show you in just a moment. And then you'll need to follow the steps that I have on Blackboard to set up ProctorU. Oh, and one other thing. Those two assignments, Lab 1 and the meet and greet, those are actually bundled together in this sort of collection of orientation tasks that is worth 20 points, and that is going to account for your first 20-point lab grade. And then there's also a student questionnaire that I've set up that you'll answer in order for me to get to know each of you better. And then finally, you'll get to your first real assignments, which are the Chapter 1 lecture and the accompanying study guide and checkpoints. So that's your first week to-do list. Before I leave you, I'm going to give you a quick tour of the Blackboard page, just so you know where everything is located. Okay, quick tour of our Blackboard page. This is the main landing page when you enter our course. Up at the top, you can see there's different tabs for the calendar, announcement, discussion boards. This is where you'll find your gradebook. This is where you can send me messages. Pretty much everything that you need for those first week miscellaneous tasks is in the Start Here folder. So in this folder, you'll find our syllabus, schedule, and quiz. In this subfolder here, there's the syllabus quiz. This folder contains everything that you need to get set up with ProctorU. There's several links that walk you through the process of creating an account, downloading the browser, testing your equipment, etc. And then we have the student questionnaire. This is where you sign up for a meet and greet. You can also join our course on Remind by clicking on this link, and here is our textbook. Beyond the Start Here folder, we have one module for each week, and they should all look pretty much the same inside. There will be a folder for our lecture and a folder for our lab. Inside the lecture folder, we have the lecture video, study guide, checkpoints, and the optional extra credit discussion board. Inside the folder for the lab, we have lab instructions. In this case, we also have our inventory list showing you what should be in your lab kit, and then we have a lab assignment. And every single week will look pretty much the same like that. So if you have any questions about how our Blackboard is set up or anything else I've told you about in this video, please send me a message. Otherwise, I look forward to meeting each of you in our meet and greet sessions.